So do you think you could
Nothing
have done
really
it?
happened over there.
Yeah.
So there was no code repetition, there was no redundant code. It is all, I mean, it's all efficient. But it could have been more efficient if I had used CSS modules, or if I had broken down the CSS files into, multiple files. For example, if there is a button component, I could have made a separate CSS file for the button. Maybe I could have called it button.css. And then again for the job card, I could have, made a separate CSS file named as jobcard.css. So had I done that, it would have been much better for me to maintain it. And again, much better for you guys to read the code. Now, if you go there and see the code, I don't really think you will understand anything.
Mm-hmm.
And again, see if any error is there in the UI, now it becomes very difficult. We need to search. You said there are 2,000 lines of code, and you don't really know where the button is, right? Had I broken it down into multiple files, it would have been easier to debug as well. So that is where I went wrong. Not because I didn't know how to do it, but because I didn't expect, our app to grow so much.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, so would you like to highlight any other mistakes which you did while working with React? Because when we all started working with React, mainly it was just the three of us, and the others were into design and backend side of things. So the three of us were the front end guys. So when we started working with React, like what do you think were our major mistakes? What do you think we did wrong, and how could we have improved? So I'd like to
So
start with Nishant. Yeah.
initially, we all were like new to React, even me. And so to implement any feature, I used to use the traditional JavaScript approaches, like you directly manipulating the DOM and all without properly using the power of components. So that was our primary mistake in React side, according to me.
Again, yeah, again, I would say the same thing. We not using components properly was a major mistake because a lot of code we could have,
Mm.
turned into a component, but we did not. Now, when we look at the code, we say, what rubbish is this? But back then, that was the right idea.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Anything
Yeah,
else that you'd
yeah,
like? Yeah.
and plus we passed down a lot of props that could have also been eliminated actually
I think
by
one
using any
major,
Redux or something.
yeah, one mistake that I remember. This was after our interns joined. I guess after Jagrav joined. We were working on state pages, right? And
Uh,
displaying state-wise data and all. And back then, I guess I was busy. Nishan was leading the team. And Nishan, would you like to tell what mistake you did there? What major mistake you
yeah,
did there?
so the feature was to display state data when you click on the state's name. So what I did was I created a model and passed the specific state's data to that model without creating a separate page for that feature.
Yeah, and
So
it
that
broke
resulted
so
in,
many things.
yeah.
It broke so many things. It broke the scroll, first of all. Then there was no going back. Once you click on the state, there was no going back. And when I
Mm.
saw it for the first time, when I was reviewing it, I was like, "Arey, ye किधर line channel?" So that is when I changed the entire code and started passing the props to the pages, the separate pages. So yeah, initially we did a lot of mistakes, but then somehow we got back on track.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Moving to the next question. So, as I mentioned earlier, whenever the Prime Minister would kind of announce that, to honor the Corona warriors of our country who have, sacrificed a lot for us, the citizens who were staying in, he asked us to, bang a thali and to light a candle at 9 p.m. And we kind of joined in these activities in our own way. So, would you guys like to, tell us about that? I think Nishant. You can mention one, and Salil, you can mention the other. The first one, I think Nishant, you can mention which we did, the thali banging part.
Yeah. So that was the time when I just had joined the team, and I think we were sending out SMS messages to
Mm-hmm.
people who had given their details on a website. Yeah,
So so
and
so it was
on
like
yeah, sorry.
it was like if you want to thank anyone, you all you have to do is just enter their details there, and we would send them a message, thank you message.
Yeah,
That is what Nishant is telling. Am I right, Nishant?
yeah, yeah.
Correct. So we kind of put out a message saying, hey, if you want to thank someone you know who's a corona warrior, who's either a doctor or has somehow contributed to helping people during the COVID-19 lockdown, you can send us their number and we'll send them a thank you message from our side on your behalf. And that's what we did. And I think we got around 90 phone numbers or so, and we all
Mhm.
of us kind of distributed them among ourselves, and we sent out SMSs to all of them. And another thing which we did, Salil, would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, before that, I would like to tell you that even we kind of felt like we are the Corona warriors because we had been working day and night, building that Corona tracker. So I remember, congratulating all my teammates and thanking all my teammates for being good Corona warriors. And after that, PM Modi came with no, lighting candles for 9 minutes at 9
Candle with
p.m.
Diya.
Yeah, so for that we actually coded a candle. I mean, we did not have a time to code the candle, so we took a existing code and we made sure that it's there out live at 9 p.m. So that is something we did, and it would come only once per user. So once the user clicks close button, it won't come back even if you refresh it.
Nice. So, like, is there any process which you followed, anything unique which you did with the candle of as a front end developer? Was it challenging in any way to you?
Not as a front end developer, but definitely as a CSS developer, it was really challenging because that flame which was there. To code that was really difficult, and I had to tweak the existing code a little bit in order to make
Mm-hmm.
that happen. And also, of course, making it available only once per user was not that difficult, but again, it was a challenge for me.
Mm-hmm, correct. And I think especially it was all a challenge because what you were pushing to the live version was going to be seen by lakhs of people. I
Yeah,
think that also kind
lakhs of
of,
people because
yeah. Yeah, speaking of lakhs of people, like in case you ever noticed a bug in the on the live version of coronatracker.in, like what was the troubleshooting process like? Because once it was live, it was being seen by lakhs and lakhs of people who were giving in feedback that something is wrong. So, Nishant, Salil, would you like to pitch in?
yeah, let's start with
Uh,
Nishan.
so I think initially we just relied on the feedback from the users of our website, and then we sort of iterated and fixed the features. But then I think we made testing versions, like we used split testing and all to test any new features that we added. So yeah, that was a approach afterwards. I think around in May or June.
Hmm.
Yeah, if there was any UI mistake or UI flaw, or if anything was broken on smaller devices, for example, Shrey's iPhone 5
Fine.
SE. So that gave a lot of problem to me. So if there was any flaw, UI flaw, I would directly edit the master branch. So I did not follow any particular process or a flow. I would directly edit the master branch.
Mm-hmm. I'd just like to add to that. So initially, so as you guys must know, with React, you get a default progressive web app setting, which is kind of there in React, and you can just turn it on, right? So we were using that PWA setting initially, and whenever we would notice some kind of issue and we would push a fix to it, it would take around 2-3 days for it to update on the user
Mm.
side. So the user would kind of keep seeing it and keep complaining to us on Twitter, or we had a feedback form on the website. They'd keep adding feedback that, hey, this is wrong. So even though we had pushed a fix for it, it wouldn't update. So I think that was another issue which we faced. But yeah, eventually as Nishan mentioned, we moved to a staging branch to make sure first that everything was right, and then push it to the live version.
Yeah, so I have a question for you, Shrey and Nishan, because I did not work on the progressive web. So did you guys fix that problem or did we remove it altogether? The PWA feature. Did we fix it?
I
Uh,
think,
I, I, yeah.
yeah, Shrey, go ahead.
I believe we had turned off the PWA for a while and then we turned it back on, but we never implemented a fix for it because at the time everything that we had to do, which was on our to-do list, was more pressing than the small PWA fix. Like we had much bigger things to kind of look into, so that kind of never took the priority among us. So we never ended up fixing it properly, but we did change our process as developers. Instead of directly pushing to the master branch and to the live version, we created a staging site wherein we pushed first. We kind of did a quality assurance of that, and then we pushed it to the live version.
Yeah, I remember I tried clearing the cache of the browsers and all from the PWA code. I had modified it, but it wasn't working sort of. So we turned off the PWA for a while and then we again made it into a PWA.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah, moving on. So back in around June or May, in the month of May, we had an events page. So we thought that since people are in lockdown and people are at home, they could come to, and a lot of people were using our platform. So we thought that we could also curate a list of events, like online events, which they could attend. So we made like a events section on the website, which is no longer there because as things started to unlock and people started to go out, it wasn't as useful anymore. So we ended up removing it for a brief amount of time. Though we did have an event section. So Nishant, would you like to tell us how you went around developing all that?
Uh, so I was working on the JavaScript and React side of things, and the cards for displaying the events and all were done by Salil. So Salil first implemented the UI design and all, and so after that I pulled data from a spreadsheet which we were maintaining, and then I actually did DOM manipulation at that time to display the data on the website, which wasn't the correct approach actually.
You know that jobs card, no, the events card.
Hmm.
It was one of our best features back then because we had given a lot of time to it. I mean, the way
Yeah.
I had written CSS for it was beautiful. I was proud of myself back then because I had followed the BEM architecture strictly and then used the power of CSS and made it work really well. It was effective. It was efficient. But one problem was there. A mistake we did was that we manipulated the DOM,
Hmm.
as Nishan said. We could have made a component, separate React
Yeah.
component, and used it. But again, we did not use it there. So I guess that was a mistake, and it should not happen. You know.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So moving to the next bit, the events page is not only one of the features that we don't have anymore. Another two features which were our unique selling points or USPs as people call it, which really helped us make us unique and get us more users was the maps features, maps feature and the location feature. So the maps feature was basically a heat map showing spots of all the COVID-19 concentration zones, so like containment zones. So like in which regions there was a higher concentration of COVID-19 cases, you could see on that heat map. But we ended up removing it because it was so slow to load. And another feature which we ended up removing was how far you are from a COVID-19 case. And we had implemented this feature a month before the Arogya Setu app implemented it. And the way we were doing it is that we were taking your latitude and longitude, and we were calculating on our backend how far you are from a verified COVID-19 case. So initially, when there were not many COVID-19 cases in the country, it was quite accurate actually. It accurately showed you how far you were from a COVID-19 case. But as cases began to grow and grow, like that, there was a latency in the data being updated and kind of an error, a small error in the location coordinates. So it was no longer accurate, and we ended up removing it. And I'd just like to highlight this because I think when we were building Corona Tracker, we were very much conscious of our ethical, our implications, and we were very much ethical all along. Like if we knew that something wasn't working properly, we removed it. If we knew that certain data wasn't right, we removed it. We didn't just keep it over there because people would be interested in seeing it or it was a unique selling point. If it didn't work, we removed it. So I think we held that in quite high regard. Would you guys?
Shri,
Yeah.
yeah, Shri, do you think removing the unique selling point was the fall of Corona Tracker?
Before
Uh,
that, Salil, I'm sorry to interrupt, but yeah, I
Yeah,
would
yeah.
even like to again support Shrey's point. In fact, due to our moves and due to whatever we decided with respect to like ethics and even credibility, because of that, I think even Niti Aayog especially highlighted the data that we showed, the credibility of our data as well as our ethics too.
mhm. So the Niti Aayog, which is the think tank of the Indian government, so to say, they featured us on their Twitter account, and as Rishikesh cited, us being very ethical and making sure that we only displayed verified data would have been a key factor in them showcasing us.
And getting featured by Niti Aayog was a great thing for us because their chairman is the PM himself. So that was a great achievement for us. And yeah, what I was saying is, do you think that removing the unique selling points, both the unique selling points and the only unique selling points from the website, was that fall of Corona Tracker? Because now, when I look back at our graph, I think that is when people started, leaving that and going elsewhere maybe. Or maybe they were not interested at all in Corona.
Hmm. So, so as we kind of have told you a bunch of big numbers, 5 million users, 18 million sessions, but at the moment we aren't getting the same number of users that we used to get. And like as Salil mentioned, I think one factor to it is the overall tone of people not being as interested in COVID-19 and its statistics anymore. That's one major factor behind it. But yeah, I think to some degree or other, like we have some users who still use us because they like the UI. And I can imagine there being some users who only came for that map, and there being some users who only came for that location feature. So so at least to some degree it must have affected it, but I don't think to a very large degree.
Mhm.
Mhm.
You mentioned the maps, right? So if you remember our initial version, we had only light version of the map. So when we tried to make it dark, I mean when we tried to replace the maps while toggling with the dark and light mode, I saw a major problem there because when I hid one map and showed the another, both the maps were getting loaded, and that was kind of a very bad user experience because it would take a lot of time. And another problem that I saw was on some browsers, if they disabled the third-party cookies, the map wouldn't load. So these two problems were there, due to which, again, I think that there was a problem with the UX for some of the users. Maybe that was one of the reasons why we lost the users at the later stages. Of course, I solved one problem, which was, toggling between the light and dark mode map. I solved it. I don't remember how I solved it, but I did solve it. But I couldn't solve the later problem, which was enabling the third-party cookie in someone else's browser. That was not in my hands. So
Mhm.
if you remember, many people complained that your map isn't working properly. It's not loading.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I think the map was quite buggy, and if he had Sanket on, he could have addressed it a bit better. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's for another date now.
Actually, if he's here, I would like to ask him one question though. Why couldn't he make both the versions of the map in the same iframe, the light and the dark mode? If he's here, Sanket.
I think he is there.
Sanket, are you on?
Bunk Celestine. Yeah, carry on, Shri.
Yeah. So yeah, there are a lot of actually intricate processes which we use to do our thing. Like we did not have a proper backend as such. We mainly relied on serverless stuff to kind of get things done. Uh, so yeah, if Sanket and Rishikesh were on right now, I think they would have been able to address that better. But I think we can focus back on React for today. So Salil and Nishant, I think majority of code has been written by you guys, at least the React code. So what would you say is the quality of code like? Like you guys have highlighted that in some cases you weren't as effective, like as efficient actually, but what is the overall quality of code like, the React code which you have written, and how does it actually affect in the bigger scheme of things? So I think Salil, we can start with you.
I would say the code quality is very, very poor. And how it affects in the long run is that, see, we are not using the power of React.
Could
And
you
if you're not
also
using the
highlight
power of
why it
React,
was
it's
poor?
actually we already said the things. We directly manipulated the DOM. We did not use
Yeah.
the use components effectively,
Hmm.
and we did not pass the props properly. I mean, pass data between the components properly. So there were a lot of mistakes. Of course, the whole app was built in the first month of the of our journey, and back then we
Hmm.
didn't know anything.
True. Nishant, would you like to add anything?
Nothing like all of that is covered, I think. Yeah.
Okay. So moving on, I think this is a question I can address. So, how did we add and test new features? So, how we did that was that initially we used Netlify to host our React app, and how we would do it is that we would directly push it to GitHub master and the master branch of our GitHub repo, and we had a CI/CD, CI/CD pipeline, and that would directly start the build cycle on Netlify. And it would build and serve the new version of the branch. And initially, we would just push everything to master and we would directly go live. And the disadvantage of that was that we could not properly test our new features. So we realized that this would be a big issue for us. And since we were getting a lot of traffic and we did not have any money to actually buy servers, we had actually reached out to Netlify, and they have been more than gracious enough to give us a free pro plan and not charge us anything. So since we had that leverage, we thought that we should just stick to Netlify and not look at some of the other vendors. So we decided to stick to Netlify. But now again, we needed to figure out a way to test our new features. And how we did that was that Netlify offers you a feature wherein you can A/B test. And A/B testing, if you don't know, is basically having two different versions of your same website and directing the overall traffic that's coming to your website between those two versions. So, say in one version you have your background color as brown, and one version background color as red. You can basically choose what percentage of your total traffic goes to which version. So Netlify has this feature, and we kind of multi-purpose this feature into being like a staging website for us. So we had all of our traffic going to our main version, but we had also created like a A/B testing version of a certain branch, which was our test branch, and we would push it to the test branch, and we would check if all the features were working or not, and based on that, we would merge the two branches, and everything would go live. So we had like a staging branch and a live production branch, and the staging branch was also hosted, and we would kind of check and make sure everything was working, and then push it to live. Do you guys have anything to add here, Salil, Nishan?
No.
Nothing really.
Okay, cool. Moving to the next question, Salil, you have been talking about accessibility a lot. You recently wrote an
These
article.
days.
You recently wrote an
Share
article.
the link in the chat.
Yeah, I'll share the link in the chat. So Salil recently wrote an
Thank you.
article on Dev2 about accessibility and a library which he's made, which tells you if the code which you're writing is accessible or not. So Salil, since you're thinking a lot about accessibility as of late, how accessible is Corona Tracker as a website?
To be honest, I don't really know. I never checked it for accessibility. I never developed it for accessibility. So I don't know whether it is accessible or not. Of course, most of the things will be accessible, no doubt. but there will be quite a few things which I might have missed out, and I'm sure I missed out few things.
Hmm. Yeah, we'll share the link to Salil's article later on. But moving to the next question, I think we've kind of covered a lot about Corona Tracker, and I think we can kind of speak a bit about what Corona Tracker is now and where it's headed. So I think I'd like to start over here. So at the moment, if you guys have noticed, and if you guys use Corona Tracker regularly, you must have noticed that we have a jobs section on Corona Tracker. You can visit that section by going to coronatracker.in/jobs, and in that jobs section, we are partnered with a company called Job Square, and we are trying to curate a bunch of jobs which people can apply to. And the reason to do this is that during the COVID-19 crisis, a lot of people have lost their jobs, and we thought that the next thing we can do to help people was to curate jobs, because yeah, a lot of people have lost them, and we really feel this can add value to our user base, which is in the demographic of 30 to 40, which is also a demographic that has mostly lost their jobs. So yeah, that's why we have added a job section, and we are kind of working towards making it more and more user friendly and help people find jobs more easier. And we're also working towards promoting it at the moment. So that was like my take on what Corona Tracker is right now. Salil, Nishant, would you like to add anything?
See, right now the driving force for Karnataka is intense. Jagdav and Riddhi, I don't think without them
Yeah,
Karnataka would have lived so far,
Hmm.
because
they both are here, I guess. Yeah,
maybe they are here, because the last time I wrote code was around 3 months back for Karnataka, because after that I went on to develop few other websites, and those were my priorities. So I did not write a single line of code in the last 3 months. So
Hmm.
yeah, if you ask me what Karnataka is now, I would say it is a combined effort of Riddhi and Jagrav and all our interns.
Correct. I think we can ask them towards the end of the session to turn their mics or cameras on and kind of give like a short, like tell their experience of working with us in Corona Tracker. But we can do that towards the end. So, Nishant, like, what would you like to say? Like, Corona Tracker is right now.
yeah, as Sajil said, right now the interns are leading the project, and we are like reviewing their code and all, and merging, and giving them advice to improve their coding style and all. So yeah,
Hmm. And where do you see coronatracker.in going? Like, I think all of us know that our users have gone quite down. Like, we still have over 5,000 users coming in on a daily basis, which is something, but it's not the same, glorious number like 1 million or, a couple of lakhs that used to come in on a daily basis. So, where do you think Corona Tracker is going next? Nishant?
If you remember, Shrey, we had anticipated that Karnataka would die in the month of March,
Mm-hmm.
which did not happen.
yeah.
So it's we cannot really predict whether we cannot predict the future of Karnataka, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
because still there are people who visit our website, and they might continue visiting it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think we didn't mention about our Goa tracker which we built, right?
Yeah, we did not. Nishant, I think you kind of
Yeah,
said everything on that. Would you like to share something about it?
yeah, sure. So I think Niket used to share the daily bulletins from Goa government on a WhatsApp group, and one of our intern, I think Riddhi, used to enter all the details onto a spreadsheet, and we used to pull the data from the spreadsheet and display it on the website. And
And
I think Sanket has also made a separate map for a Goa version, I think.
yeah, and initially I was totally against the idea of Goa version, because I had seen the analytics, and from that analytics, not even 1% of the users were from Goa, though it was
Hmm.
born in Goa, brought up in Goa, but still Goans were not, you know, visiting our website. So I was totally against the idea of putting efforts in making an entire new website. So I think here Nishant pitched in and took the lead, entire lead actually. He worked alone to make that happen.
Correct. I think that's another part of the whole Corona tracker journey is that even though we worked more harder when the number of users were going down than we did when they were going up, which is kind
Yeah.
of ironic, but that's
See,
the
see,
true
it
story.
happened out of nowhere, right?
Mhm.
So then our aim was to retain the users. So we had to work hard.
Correct.
And we
Correct.
had announced in the prudent interview that we will be working on it. So, anyways, we had to work on.
Correct. Since you just mentioned over that we had announced on one occasion that we will be launching the Goa tracker, and that kind of social accountability led us to actually, ship the Goa tracker. A lot of people have been asking us when will we make Goa tracker.in open source. So
Okay. So
yeah.
I think I'll speak here. One of the reasons we never made it open source because I never let them make it open source in the first place. Because people look up to all of us. We are seen as good developers, and the code which we have written for Karnataka is very, very poor. So I did not want us to know how poor the code is. So that is the reason we never made it open source.
But do you plan to make it open source at some point?
We are planning to make it open source since the last 3 months, if I'm not wrong, right?
Yeah.
But we do not get time to refactor the code and make it better.
hmm So yeah, at some point, I guess you guys will see us making Corona Tracker open source, and I guess you can go through the code and do whatever you want with it. So yeah, coming on an end note, what have you learned personally from building CoronaTracker.in, or how have you grown from the process? Maybe as a developer, maybe as an individual. I think Nishant, we can start with you.
I think working on Corona Tracker has actually made me a good team player actually, and I used to struggle a lot with Git and all initially, but by working on it, I got a hang of it actually. And initially, I used to use Git for my own personal projects. I never worked in a team and all. So that was another experience. So yeah,
Salil?
What I learned from Karnataka is that अपने काम से काम रखना is very underrated because in our team each one of us was focusing on our own strengths. For example, you never interfered in CSS, right? You never interfered in UI development. I never interfered in Nikit's work when he was designing. I never interfered with Nishant's work when he was writing JavaScript, and that kind of made us more efficient, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
because there were no clashes. We are working for the last 6 7 months, but we haven't fought like how other people do. And good thing is we haven't even met yet, right?
Correct,
I
yeah.
haven't even seen Nishant in person,
I met Shrey last year. Yeah,
and
Yeah, but
he is my
yeah,
senior. He is my senior in JC, Nishant, but I have never seen him in JC. Neither is he seen me in JC, and we haven't even met. The only time we met last time was to click a photograph, right,
yeah.
Shrey?
And the whole team wasn't there actually.
Whole team wasn't there.
Yeah. So that's another thing that we are looking forward to meet as a team someday and kind of look back on what we have and what we have built. Uh, so yeah, like I'd also like to answer what I've learned from building chronotracker.in. Like just like you, oh yeah, Jagra
yeah,
also.
Jagrav is also there.
Jagra,
Jagra should come to Goa.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So Jagra
Okay,
intern,
let me tell Jagra's
yeah,
story. So Jagra was following me since a long time on Instagram. So I don't know why he started following me in the first place because my profile is public and I speak about tech and all. Oh, he followed me because of Tesla. Cool. So Jagra used to tell me that my father is using Karnataka and I was shocked and I told him that I know this person who built the Karnataka. So I was like, okay, thank you. And then in a few days, he's started pinging me to tell me that he wants to work with Karnataka. And we were not ready for the interns then back then. So I told him, yes, if I have any work for you, I'll definitely ping you. And again, in 2 3 days, he built the entire Karnataka, the clone of it, and showed it to me. And I was like shocked to see it. I called him and told him to make it private, make the repo private first. And then we got on a call with him and decided to have him as an intern. So this is
Mhm.
Jagrav's story. Even Shrey was shocked, right? Shrey,
Yeah,
especially
I
at Goan.
remember. Yeah, I remember you sent me a link with of something that looked like coronatrekker.in. I was so confused how that person built it. Like I don't know how Jagrav actually did it, but yeah, that
Even
was
I don't know how he did
amazing.
it. But if you say his work with the WhatsApp clone, I don't know how, but he does it perfectly. Maybe he gets the source code from somewhere, but he does it really well. Cloning
Hmm.
and all.
Yep. So I think we can have him on in the last few minutes, and he can kind of share his experience working with us.
Yeah,
But
sure. If our interns are here, please speak up later on and tell
yep,
how it was working with Karnataka team.
yep. So yeah, I'd like to also answer, what I've learned from working on coronatrekker.in. So like you guys, it was my first experience working in a team as well. So I kind of learned a bit about how you code and how you develop and how you push things in a professional setting. So that it was like my first small taste of that. And I initially I did a lot of dev, but then I kind of moved into the whole marketing and partnership side of things for coronatrekker.in. So I got on a lot of calls, and I also learned how to interact with people. I'd never gone on so many Zoom calls before COVID-19 and Corona Tracker happened. Like back then, we were being offered a lot of partnerships when we were growing like crazy. So yeah, I got on a lot of calls to interact with people. So I think my communication skills have improved a bit thanks to coronatrekker.in. And yeah, I think that was a major highlight for me. Like I've grown as an individual. I can't quite quantify it as such, but in very different ways, I learned a lot of things. I met a lot of new people, and yeah, yeah, that's kind of it. So I think
Are we missing
yeah.
something? Are we
Yeah,
missing
Uh,
something?
the last question I had was that what did we learn from each other? Which could be like an end question, and then we can move to the audience questions if they have any.
Sure.
So, Salil, would you like to start? What have you learned from
Yeah,
each other?
one thing I learned as a designer, not as a developer, but as a designer is that, my mobile designs are not as good as other mobile designs. So this is something I learned from Niket. His mobile design is really good. So I was, constantly looking up his designs and trying to find out what he did differently. So that is what I learned from him. What I learned from Rishikesh is that always talk about money first. बाकी सब बाद में गया. Think as a businessman. So that is what I learned from Rishi. And from Nishant, I was really impressed by JavaScript skills. So I would say I learned a little bit of JavaScript from him.
Hmm. Cool. Nishant, what about you?
Actually, I was not that good with CSS and all. I used to read Sully's CSS files and all, what he wrote. I used to Google it out and ask him what this does and all. So I started learning from there on.
Hmm. Uh,
What did you learn, Shri?
from a learning point of view, I think it's very small things that I learned over time. Like from Niket, I learned a thing or two about design, like how he thinks about design. Because whenever he'd kind of send a new design, we'd ask him, "Hey, why is this like that?" And he'd kind of explain that a user, when he first sees a website, it should be like this or like that. So I learned a thing of two about design from Niket. Uh, with Salil, I learned a thing or two about CSS and front end dev. And with from Nishant, a bit about JavaScript. Like again, these are all our strong points. From which we kind of learned a thing or two. Like I at least never stuck to just one thing. I did a bunch of things with coronatrekker.in. Whatever I learned from one side of thing, I kind of try to apply it to another. And again, from Rishikesh, I learned, that anything is possible because he would kind of keep on coming up with a lot of new ideas, and the whole mapping thing and the whole location thing too. So I learned a thing or two from everyone and kind of tried to make it my own over time. And another thing which I wouldn't say I learned from you guys, but another aspect of knowing you guys is that we are still in touch. We still talk on a regular basis. So if I have any CSS doubt, I can just ping Sunil. If I have any JavaScript doubt, I can ping Nishant. If I need any backend help, Rishikesh or Sanket are always there. If I need,
And
yeah,
Shrey, one thing I would like to say is that each one in our team is a multitasker. I mean, Corona
Mhm.
Tracker is not our only thing. In fact,
Mhm.
for all of us, I think Corona Tracker was a side project,
Correct.
which tells that we had important things to work on. So
Mhm.
that is something even for our interns. So
Correct.
this is something which I appreciate because you should keep on working.
Mhm.
And again, one thing I learned from you is you're very good at managing the entire thing. I mean,
Yeah.
we all, even though you are the youngest one, we all saw you as a leader because you were on the top of the tree and you were helping all of us. Because
Oh,
I was never in touch with
mhm.
Rishi or Sanket as much as I was in touch with you, and same with others, right?
Mhm.
So if I say it in Konkani, तुये आमका बांधून दिलेले, असे म्हणता. So your managing skills are really good. And being a front-end developer was really, really difficult in an app which grows like nothing. Because
Mhm.
every other day, Niket would come with some or other product feature and would change the entire UI. And
Mhm.
माझी बसताली because I had to do all the changes, right? And I
Mhm.
have to make sure that it works on all the browsers, it works on all the devices, it works on your device, especially iPhone 5 SE. So yeah, being a front-end developer is really, really difficult.
Mhm. Yeah, I think at least the questions which I had decided I should ask you guys, I've come to an end for that. If the guys in the chat, if you guys would like to say anything, you can, or if you guys have anything in the chat, like the folks in the chat, if you guys have any questions, you can drop it in the chat, or else we can kind of go on an end note. So if you have any questions, just drop them in the chat, or you can also turn on your camera and mic and you can kind of ask us. Yeah, Nishant, Salil,
Yeah.
do you have any questions as such? Or sorry, do you have any? Okay, we got a question. How should I go about web development to be able to build such a website?
Just a minute, Ashley.
Yep.
Nishan, you can answer this question.
Uh, so I would suggest start from the basics. Like if you want to make a website just using React, then first of all you have to start learning React first. And if you have no idea about JS and all, you will have to get familiar with JS. Basics of JS are enough to get started with React. Actually, I my journey with React was I started learning basics of JS and then I migrated to React. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I would like to add to this. Don't try to learn everything. Don't try
yeah,
to be the master of all. I mean, you can be the master of, jack of all, but try to be a master of one in the first 2 years of your college, and then try to diversify into other fields. Like, if I speak about front-end development, you can start with front-end development and just focus on the three languages, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript in the first 2 years. Then you can go for the fields which are closely in touch with UI. I mean with front end. For example, UI UX design. Okay, that's a whole different field, right? UI UX. So you can learn that and diversify your knowledge. Then you can go for, let's say, backend. Again, if you are good at JavaScript, it will be easier for you to learn Node.js. Then you may go to AR and VR, which again is closely related to web development or app development, I would say. Also design. So make sure you're good at least something in the first 2 years. Okay, so that will help you a lot. Don't
Mm-hmm.
try to
And
learn everything.
I'd just like to add to what Nishant and Salil said. Like definitely learn as you go, but I'd like to emphasize the process of learning as you build. Just have a project in mind that you want to work on, and just get started with it and learn the things that you need uh, as you build it. So, like say you need to learn how to, write JS for your project. So learn that as you build that, and you directly apply what you learn. So I think that's greatly helped me in picking up new skills faster. because it's a completely different thing knowing uh, you know knowing how things like how to write JS and actually implementing it. So yeah, that's one thing that I'd like to add.
This is what we discussed yesterday as well, right? We
Mhm.
do not get any leisure time to learn things. So if you want to learn anything, let's say you want to learn Vue, make sure you build your next website or your next product using Vue. So that will be the time you will learn Vue. So for
Mhm.
example, I told you yesterday that I want to learn, modules about modules. So the website which I'm working on right now, I'm using that over it. So you need not take special time to learn things. Just
Mhm.
go with the products and build them.
Mhm. So we have three different questions related to Angular, Vue, and React. So I'll just combine all of them. Why did we use React and not Vue or Angular?
Okay, I'll answer that first. Why
Or sorry,
I,
the
you
first
know,
question was actually which is better, React or Angular or others. So you can also answer that as well.
See, I don't think we are the right people to answer that question, which is better, because even we don't know. But the reason
Hmm.
I chose React is because, it also allows me to write the native apps, or not the native apps, but the hybrid apps using React Native. So that is the reason I chose React
Yeah.
over Vue or Angular. And the thing about Angular is it is losing its support in the year 21.
Hmm. Nishant, would you like to add anything?
Nothing really, because yeah, same thing as Sajid said. I also actually started learning React because of the documentation itself of React. I started from the documentation, and I found the documentation for React being very helpful actually compared to other frameworks.
See, it is
So
also said
I
that
was al- I
Vue's,
was I
yeah,
was also
continue,
at
sorry,
that cross
sorry.
point. I was also at that crossroad of deciding between Angular, Vue, or React, and then finally I decided to go with React only earlier this year.
Hmm. I'd just like to add over here is that I guess it depends on the use case of what you're trying to build. But
That is also
we we basically use React is because we didn't know anything else and we wanted to learn React. So
yeah.
I guess it just boils down to that, at least for us.
That was my for a first front end framework actually, or library as you call it.
Hmm. If we don't have any more questions in the chat, just before we kind of end it, we had gotten a bunch of questions in the form. So if it's fine, we'll just quickly go through them in 2-3 minutes. Does Niti Aayog use your app?
Mm,
I would like to answer that because I'm kind of like in contact with them.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of them, yeah. I think they use it, but not on often basis. But yes, I just got the information like they use it in a couple of occasions, not
Mm-hmm.
regular as such. Yeah.
All right, cool. Next question was how long did it take to build the tracker and how did you get the data required to track people? So we have
okay,
kind of answered this.
I'll answer this.
Yeah.
I
Mm.
guess to build the new version, front end took me around 3 days, and 3 days under pressure. Like Shrey was texting me again and again, why can na jatle, why can na jatle. So under pressure, I built it in 3 days.
Mm-hmm. I just like to add over here, like, of course, like the main thing was built by Salil in under the first month or so, but the overall process of we kept on adding things and removing things, adding things and removing things, and we are
Yeah,
still doing it. Like,
still doing it. Right.
just early morning, we like yesterday we pushed another commit to the live version, so we are still adding things and removing things and trying to make sure that the tracker is as can get better in some way or the other. And right now, the whole dev side of things is being led by our interns, Jagrav and Riddhi. So since you mentioned them, Jagrav, Riddhi, if you guys are on, would you like to turn on your mics and cams and say a thing or two about your experience working with Corona Tracker?
By the way, I got both the interns. So I'm the recruiter at Karnataka.
Yeah. Hey, Jagra.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what to say.
So yeah, what was your experience like working with Corona Tracker? What did you like expect, and how has it turned out for you?
Well, this was my
So,
first internship.
I think,
So,
sorry, you should introduce yourself first.
oh yeah, I'm Jagrav. I'm from West Bengal, and yeah, I'm a 16-year-old. I'm turning 17 tomorrow. So,
Oh,
and yeah, it was a hell of a time to work with you guys because I learned so much from you guys. Especially about React. Thank you, thank you, Tanmay.
Cool, cool. Riddhi, would you, if you're around, would you like to say something? Hey, yeah, you're audible.
Right. And this third year of biology somewhere around April.
Riddhi, I
can
think
you
you're,
hear her?
no, I think we have an
Rithi, you're not
issue.
audible.
Yeah.
Audible now?
Yes, you are.
Around somewhere April. To the event. So I think for helping them on the data. So they
Uh, I think Riddhi, there's still some issue with your mic.
Yeah,
yeah.
Just
your voice is
type it. Type it. Send a text message
yeah,
in
yeah.
the chat.
Yeah, I think she can do that, but I think we can introduce Riddhi and talk a bit about how what our experience was working with her. I think Riddhi joined us in around May time to handle our socials. So as I mentioned, we do have a Twitter account with over 13,000 followers. So she kind of helped us, joined us to help us run the social accounts, and she started with that. But she then kind of moved on to adding the data for the Goa tracker, and now she's into dev as well. So she kind of started with the helping us with the marketing, and now she's into dev, like actually writing code for the main Corona tracker. I think that is something, and she's done a pretty good job, I'd say. And yeah,
And about Jagto, he's a freak. I mean, he can do anything. You just
Yeah.
tell him, and next day he'll come up with something.
yeah. I mean, he's the OG hacker among us.
I think
thanks.
Yeah,
Tanmay wants to say something.
Yeah, hi. So we are a little bit beyond time, so I just thought we'll wrap this up. If anyone has
Okay.
more doubts or questions for the team, you can contact. I think Shrey, you can put up your contact details in the group chat so that anyone can contact you. You can put your phone number and your email so that whatever is more comfortable, people can do that. So yeah, if you have any more questions, you can always contact Shrey. I'm sure he'll be happy to help. Let's wrap this up now. Just one sec. Um,
Ashley, will you please share my details?
yeah, sure.
yeah, sure. Whoever wants to share their, I think two, three members of the team can share their details because in case Shrey is not available, then.
Yep.
So,
Nishant, you can drop
firstly,
it.
thanks to Shrey, Salil, and the rest of the team of CoronaTracker.in for taking up this session. I think you guys have done a wonderful job with both, not just today, but throughout since February and doing this and really touching a grassroots level with your work. Uh, that being said, if anyone would like to give some feedback to us about this session, I've put a link to the feedback in the group chat. So do fill that out. It's completely anonymous. So we can also get feedback about what we could have improved about this session or what the Corona team also could have done a little bit differently while talking about their work. So yes, they have obviously done a lot more. They've I won't call it a rags to riches story, but they have uh, they have been featured by some really really big names out there. So once again for to the team for obliging us with this session.
Yeah, thank
Um,
you, Tanmay.
a little bit of background on what Dev Cluster is. We are an 8-year-old community, and we have always had this culture of learning and growing together, which is why I admire how all of you all in the team, you know, I think at about 5 or 6 o'clock, all of you all mentioned that how each of you all learned something from the other members of the team. So that was like something really inspiring to know. So yeah, the Dev Cluster always tried to promote that culture for the past 8 years or so, and you guys have perfectly embodied that. Yeah, so this particular initiative that we have taken up today is part of our React community. So this is our fourth session, in fact, as part of our React community. The first three were sessions on the basics of React. We call them reaction time. And yeah, so this React community is a bit of an attempt to create a discussion and meetup group around React. So if you are in Goa or actually if you are interested in React rather, we would love to have you join our community and just discuss React and learn about React. That's what we intend this to be for. So yeah, I think Shrey has dropped his details in the group chat. Yeah, Shrey has dropped his detail in the group chat. Shrey, drop in your email also if you have one.
Yeah,
Uh,
I have dropped it.
okay, yeah, yeah. Shrey has dropped in his email, right? So Shrey, you can contact Shrey or any of the other members of from Dev Cluster. So what we have in mind is to start off with a WhatsApp group, and if you guys are interested in React, you can join in over there. Uh, so yeah, does anyone want to give us any feedback about the session?
Yes,
Can
Tanmay, I would like to say something.
who
Hello.
would like to say something? Sorry.
Yeah, Salil, yeah. I would like to say
No,
something.
I mean the
Uh,
audience first.
no, I want to give a feedback to you.
Okay,
So
okay.
I've said this quite a lot, many a times, and I'll say it again that you are the reason why we could communicate with students from other colleges. So you
Oh,
started that with JDG, and you continue with that with Dev Cluster, and keep doing it. It really helps a lot.
thanks, Salil.
Yeah, hey, I'd also like to pitch in on that. I was just about to say that if you go to see, Niket is working, he's like working at a proper job, and all of us are spread across different years. So there's no way we could have met, and across different colleges as well, across different regions of Goa. So there's no way we could have met at school or any one place, but we went to events organized by Dev Cluster and GDG and met one another and kind of connected on the same interests, and that kind of helped us come together.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, thanks, Salil and Shrey, for pointing out that, I know because of the pandemic, we haven't done any physical meetups. That's why we're doing this virtually. But meetups as a whole do help you learn more and meet new people, if nothing else.
Yeah.
I think these virtual meetups are really helpful. Because I'm sitting here in West Bengal and I can still attend your event.
Yeah,
So
that's
please
also
keep
true.
doing this.
Yeah, if you were in, if we were doing this offline, then we would never have had Jagrav join. Or
Yeah.
rather, even if he was joining in, it wouldn't have been as effective because I've noticed that earlier when we used to do it, the person who was joining in online, like people would get bored with what he's talking. So it's not nothing about no matter who the speaker was. Once we had brought in someone from another time zone, basically someone who was really experienced from another country, but it did not cut any ice with the audience.
Mhm.
I do fill in the feedback. It helps us improve. And, if we did something right, that also is something that we do want to know. So that's why I do fill in the feedback. And yes, if you would like to give us any feedback over here, you can unmute yourself or drop it in the group chat. We would really love to hear from you.
Well, by the way, could I share the Corona Tracker, you know, Twitter handle here?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So you guys captured a really good Twitter handle over there. No wonder you got a lot of followers on Twitter. Like COVID-19 India. Wow.
Thanks to Sean actually, who's not here, but he actually owns the Twitter account.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you all are like SEO optimized here. Yeah, thanks, Devraj. Shrey, could you just read out what Devraj said?
This was an awesome session. Got to know a lot about coronatracker.in team, and also the dev cluster team is doing a great job of having such events. Thanks, Devraj.
Okay, then we are, I think, a little bit too much across time, so I think we can end it over here. Shrey and Sahil have shared their details, so note those down before you leave the chat so that you can contact them. Otherwise, their details are always available. You can contact us at the rate DevCluster Goan in across social media, or you can contact the Corona Tracker team. I think they have an about section on their page, if I'm not wrong. Uh, you do guys have an about section, right?
Yep.
Team section.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so their details will be over there, so you can always check them out and contact them over there. Okay, then. Bye, guys. Thanks for joining in today on a Sunday evening. And yeah, uh, keep coming back for more events like these and, help with the community. Bye, guys.
Bye.